I'm Keith Bramall, and I've been researching my family history and discovered that they were heavily involved in the Gannister mining industry that started in the Worral area. I'm on my way to meet Battye, who is allegedly well clued up on the subject.
Morning, Keith.
Morning. How are you? Thank you. So Ray, I'm Keith Bramall.
Hello, Keith.
Hi. My interest in Gannister mining in the valley has come through a family link in that my ancestors, I understand, through my partner Claire Pearson's work, that Joseph Bramall, my grandfather, 5 times back, actually started Gannister mining in this area, and she found that out mainly through purchasing a book that you wrote, Ray, on Gannister mining in our area, called The Forgotten Mines of Sheffield. And in this book we've actually got a whole chapter written about the Bramall's company that ran the Gannister mines in our area. Could you tell me a little bit about what is Gannister? What was its use?
Well, what it is a very hard, solid rock, which is technically called a clay rock. Now, to most people, a clay is a soft, soggy soil, but it's not like that at all. And it was formed in the region of 300 million years ago, when the area in which we now live was very, very different from the way it is now. It was a flat river delta, probably. And on the river delta, forests grew occasionally. And they eventually disintegrated and formed coal, and what Gannister is the fossilised soil in which the forest grew.
Ray and myself are out and about so he can show me some of the old actual mining sites.
What we're looking at, Keith, are the woods of Warncliffe, and it looks a very pleasant scene, but it's very difficult to imagine that 50 years ago you got a hive of industry there. But what's special about Warncliffe Woods is that there are 2 outcrops of the rock that we're talking about. On the top there's an outcrop of Gannister, that's true Gannister, and down at the bottom near the old railway line there is an outcrop of pot clay. So the mines in Warncliffe Wood were much bigger than those elsewhere, and sometimes the one company would own a mine at the top mining Gannister and then one at the bottom a mining pot clay. And what they'd do is that they'd mine the produce, and then little railway lines or tracks were built down the hillside, and they would take the product straight onto the Manchester-Sheffield railway line, when it could be carried off either to the refractory works in Stocksbridge just down there, or to wherever else it was going to be processed. And there are several mines up in the woods over there. So Gannister was first mined and quarried around this area in order to make materials that you could line steel furnaces with. So in very simplistic terms, when you turned a steel furnace on, like the Bessemer converter, you needed something to protect it, because the furnace itself was actually made out of steel. So in very simple terms, it stopped the furnace from melting.
As me and Ray explore, I'm surprised to learn that there were 3 mines within a few hundred yards of where we are.
What we've seen, Keith, in some places is how you can still find the remains of these mines on the ground. But if you look at this hillside here, there is nothing at all. And I find it quite amazing to realise that there was a mine entrance there. It's obviously been grassed over, and as always, nature will win in the end.
My understanding was that Henry Bessemer developed a process of steel making that enabled steel to be made in much bigger quantities.
Yeah.
And am I right in my understanding that actually my my Brammalls, my ancestors, were a part of the process of testing the Gannister, the true Gannister as we've now become to know it, and finding that that was appropriate for use in the steel industry, and was actually an integral part of developing, being able to make steel in much bigger quantities.
It was that's absolutely true. I mean, that the Bessemer converter revolutionised the manufacture of steel in South Yorkshire and other parts of the country. One smelting of iron to make steel there. It didn't actually make iron, it converted iron into steel, as did the crucible pots. Could make hundreds of tons of steel at one time. And when it was first invented, they used to line the Bessemer converter the old pot clay. But because there were problems within the furnace of the acidity of the clay, and what your great-great, I don't know how many great-grandfathers did, he discovered that this other rock, true Gannister, would have far less chemical reactions in the furnace than the pot clay did.
Here we are at the Hughes farm, where the Brammalls lived before starting the mining. I understand that they built the Hughes as a private dwelling from the profits of the mining.
On the left-hand side here, again, there's almost nothing to see. I can't remember the photograph this last time. On the left-hand side, this is probably where the first Gannister mine was built by Joseph Bramall in the 1860s. And it's just the uneven nature and unnatural nature of the ground that tells you that this is a man-made area of land. They actually used the coal to cause this ventilation system, but the coal that was mined there had very almost no explosive gases, because what you don't do in a coal mine is set a fire at the bottom.
Yeah.
Not because of burning all the coal away, but basically because there's obviously a danger of explosion. But there wasn't in the, it's called a Halifax hardbed coal, and there was usually a chimney on the top of one of the ventilation shafts. There's only one of these chimneys, as far as I know, survives in this area, and that's near the Plough Inn in Bradfield, just to the south, up the hill, go towards Derbyshire, and at the side of the road there's a brick chimney there, and that's the last one of these ventilation shafts that survives. We're on the west slope of the Upper Don Valley now, or the River Port, whatever you want to call it. So we're looking towards the northeast, and in front of us there is a rather unique Gannister mine. But let me be accurate, it didn't actually mine Gannister, it mined pot clay, which is a very similar rock and used for similar purposes. Why is it different? Well, you can see the wheel on the top. This had a vertical shaft. Generally, mine Gannister and pot clay only sold for low prices. So most of the mines, because of the shape of the valley, were drift mines. In other words, the miners could actually walk straight into the mines, and they're sometimes called adit mines. But this one here had a vertical shaft to it. The big disadvantage of that is the increased cost, because obviously you've got to get the miners down into the mine, then you've got to take the Gannister, or the pot clay in this case, and the coal out of the mine.
It was such a huge industry, employing a lot of people in its heyday, and such an integral part of the steelworks development in our area, that it seems a little bit lost, if you like, that this is the only information that's recorded about Gannister mining and its integral part in the huge worldwide industry, which was the development of steel. That's why we've got aeroplanes flying all over the world, we've got cars, we've got bridges, we've got a lot of our infrastructure is down to the development of steelworks, and it happened in our area. Perhaps there's people out there that have actual stories that they could tell us and our viewers about that link into the Gannister mining industry locally.
You're absolutely right. I mean, when I produced the book and did the original research for the university in Sheffield, I did come across there several people that had worked in the mines. Now, that original research was 15 years ago, so life has moved on. But if anybody has any records, then you and I would probably be very grateful to hear them.